Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Gut Wrench Podcast. Wait a minute. It says here that I'm supposed to look at my flashcards that I have in front of me of all of my past catchphrases and post-show opening cliches. Let me try that again, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the one-man wrestling dynasty. Let me try that one again. Yeah, because that one doesn't work either. Not an empire, a dynasty. Let me look through my flashcards again. No, getting shenanigans. No, that one wouldn't work. Hello everyone, my name is Mocha. Your name is not, your name is not Mocha. Yeah, okay, let me try. You should ask why your name's not Mocha. You should be jealous that your name's not Mocha. Is not as cool as my name. 9 out of 10 dentists recommend the Gut Wrench Podcast because the 10th dentist could not make it to work that day. And no, that dentist was not Britt Baker, DMD. Dentist recommend the Gut Wrench Podcast. Thank you all for joining. Do you know why 9 out of 10 dentists recommend the Gut Wrench Podcast? It's because it leaves a good taste in their mouth. See what I did there? See what I did? You see what I did there? You're smiling, ain't you? My name's Mocha, and this has been the Gut Wrench Podcast with Gut Wrench Facts. This week we will be looking at AEW Full Gear. If I can get my mouse to work. There it is. As Luchasaurus, this is how we open the show. Now, I was unaware that this match was a cage match. I was under the impression that it was just a one-on-one exhibition match, and for those of you who don't know why I'm whispering, or why it might sound like that I'm whispering, it is 2:30 a.m. Saturday morning, I guess you could say, because, there's nothing between morning, evening, and night, because a.m. means after midnight. Anyway, Luchasaurus faced off against Jungle Boy Jack Perry, which for some reason in my notes I put Jack Perry Jungle Boy, which is not his name. Jungle Boy has 81 victories in his AEW career. Only one man has more victories. The AEW champion, Jon Moxley. 11 months ago, these two were tag team champions, and the first time they're facing each other inside of a steel cage. For the first time, they're facing each other inside of a steel cage. The only way to win this steel cage match, you see, in the past, there have been many confusions on how to win a steel cage match. For those of you not already in the loop, because some rules differ more than others. In some cases, you would have to escape the cage. That's all that you would have to do. Escape the cage, you win the match. That's how it works. Doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter, who helped you escape or whatever. The only issue was that you had to create distance between you and your opponent long enough for you to climb the cage and escape. Take, for example, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong here, I'm willing to admit that I could be wrong in this one. King Kong Bundy facing off against Hulk Hogan, which, if I remember correctly, Hogan climbs the cage and wins the match. and that was at one of the WrestleMania events, if I remember correctly, because the $1 Million Man had paid King Kong Bundy to take out Hulk Hogan. I mean, if the $1 Million Man, not Steve Austin, the other one, and by the way, Steve Austin is a wrestler, he is an astronaut, so, do with that information what you will. You can Google it, you can check it, you can fact check me if you think that I'm wrong. Steve Austin is a dead astronaut and also a professional wrestler. I've been Mocha with Gut Wrench Facts. You're welcome. Anyway, Luchasaurus versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry in what I assumed was an exhibition. Instead of an exhibition one-on-one match, what we got was a steel cage match. I was unaware that they had changed it to a steel cage match. My question to you, the listener of this program, why in the hell would you make a main event match like a one-on-one contest like this? A cage match, nonetheless. A stipulation where, according to commentary, when things get so personal between two people, you have to settle it in a cage. And that's kind of true, but it's kind of not, because cage matches have never been, they've never really been rubber matches, Like, no one wants to see someone that they don't like, be locked in a cage with them. No, if you don't like him, you want to be further away from this person. You don't want to be, nose to nose with them. Nonetheless, Jungle Boy Jack Perry ends up bleeding, and here's the thing. Here's his sister and his mother are front row watching this man get the piss beat out of him. Steel cage, the only way to win the steel cage is by pinfall or submission. Yeah, so going over the cage will not help you. Going over the top of the cage will not end the match. 7 minutes in, we get blood driplets from Jungle Boy's forehead. Jack Perry and Luchasaurus met at around 12 years old. So they first met in 2009. This is long-term booking, if anything, at its finest. Because these two, they met it in 2009. They traveled the world together. They traveled the road together. They know what it's like. They know each other, rather, so well. And they know each other so good that they can know what each other had for breakfast, Christian Cage picks the pocket of referee Mike Posey, getting the key and opening the cage door, and then he gets thrown out by security. Jungle Boy gets catapulted into the cage wall. Luchasaurus looking for a weapon. He grabs 2 chairs, sets up a table, and we get a Canadian Destroyer, which is a move that we don't often get to see. It's one of those almost like once-in-a-lifetime moves that whenever you do get to see it, it's kind of like the magic doesn't wear off from it because you don't see it every day. You don't see a Canadian Destroyer every day. What do you see? Like a clothesline, and then, oh, look at that, a suplex, and then the rallies start, with the right hands and the right hands and the right hands, and oh God, he's got him in a corner, and he's going to do a chokehold, and then he's going to use the ropes for leverage. You see these moves every time that you open up a can of wrestling, but it's stuff like a Canadian Destroyer that you don't often see. Shout out to JR's barbecue sauce, chokeslam, because he's talking about the blood, I think, on Jungle Boy Jack Perry He says it looks thicker than some JR barbecue sauce, and of course he has to plug his own product there. Good old JR, Jim Ross. So, if you're looking for a holiday, present to give to a loved one who absolutely loves barbecue ribs, why don't you go on jrsbarbecuesauce.com, go order them some JR's barbecue sauce. You'd be doing yourself and them a favor. I almost said a flavor, but you know what? That would have fit too. You would be doing them and yourself a flavor favor. No, but about 7 minutes into the match, we get blood driplets from Jungle Boy's forehead. They've known each other. Jungle Boy Jack Perry was 12 years old. They met in 2009 and went to wrestling school together. So after the Canadian Destroyer, some of the other highlights that I wrote down here was that they had Tombstone Power Driver, followed by a Face Buster, and after they set up a table, perhaps looking for a table spot, finish, finding it hard to keep Jack Perry down. Jungle Boy Jack Perry climbs the top of the cage, putting life and limb at risk. He jumps off the cage onto his opponent and former best friend Luchasaurus, who is on the table below. He had to be at least 12.5 to 13.5 feet in the air. Jungle Boy Jack Perry puts Luchasaurus in the snare trap, which is an STF-like submission maneuver that I'm assuming that he thought up. He puts him in that snare trap, and he gets the submission victory. His sister and his mother, front row, are crying whenever he's winning. You can basically see them get emotional whenever Jungle Boy ends up winning, perhaps out of joy. This is truly how you make someone out to be an underdog. The story that was told here over an 11-month period is honestly really... I'm trying to type my notes right now, and it left me speechless. So here I put, because I was trying to think of a word, and I sat there on my notes for like almost 30 minutes, and then I had this match right here, and I had it on pause. Here's what I got to, okay? The 11-month period was honestly really, and that's it. The story that they told over an 11-month period was honestly really ... That's all that I could think of. So I was trying to type out my notes, and it left me speechless. The things that these two did in the story that they told, and is why I love AEW in a secondary alternative to professional wrestling. I'm baffled, I'm shocked, I'm surprised that AEW has not beaten WWE in the ratings wars, because this is what professional wrestling is all about, and was honestly at its finest, and truly this was just the beginning of the event for Full Gear. It says full year. For Full Gear 2022. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought that it was a solid opening contest. Was honestly really good. The only small very small problem that I had with this match was whenever Jungle Boy did climb the top of the cage, and then he did do the elbow drop, it seems like he missed Luchasaurus down below, but somehow the table still broke. He must have grazed him with his elbow just a little bit, because he did not go all the way through Luchasaurus's chest. I'm telling you, they showed it from another camera angle. It showed, oh boy, did it show us nothing but air. Okay. Our next matchup on the card. And by the way, this did happen earlier on this week. I'm saying this for the non-wrestling fans who listen to my podcast on a week-to-week basis. Thank you so much for joining me. My name has been Mocha. Good night. No, I'm joking. This is not the end of the episode. Stop checking your time. Stop checking your... Don't check it again, okay? You're like, wait a minute, what? AEW World Trios Championship match is on the line. Oh, I'm an idiot. AEW World Trios Championship is on the line, not the match. The Elite, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, and Kenny goddamn Omega face off against Pac, the champion, Penta, the champion, and Rey Fenix, the champion of Death Triangle. We've got a lot to discuss in this particular match, okay? So, try to bear with me. This is a train wreck and a car wreck of a second. It's only the second match on the card. They come out of the entrance ramp with the song Carry On Wayward Son playing. So, carry on a wayward son. There'll be peace when you walk on. That lay your head to rest. When you have so much money and you don't know what to do with it, was a note that I put here, because Tony Khan literally had to, I'm going to imagine that this man had to pay so much money to get that to be their entrance theme. I swear. The Elite could have picked anything else to play, but don't worry, it's not in vain. Okay, so Kenny Omega performed a bulldog on the bastard Pac. Pac landed on his feet. Okay, so usually whenever someone performs a bulldog, you wouldn't expect to see someone just almost like 360 from their face to their feet. Like, that's just unheard of. You wrestling fans, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Landed on his feet, then spit in Kenny's face. Super kicks in stereo, take out the Death Triangle, or at least the Lucha Brothers. Then Pac runs into a super kick, the super kick party of Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson. Then Matt Jackson does a corkscrew suicide dive over the top and catches Pac on the outside. Matt Jackson into the outside is handed a drink by one of the fans. He takes a sip and then he gives it back to them. Matt Jackson with a Northern Lights suplex. He hits three, and the third one was on two people at the same time, both of the Lucha Brothers, which was, of course, Rey Fenix and Penta. Escure is what they call him, but I don't speak Spanish and I tend to leave that part out. He hits three Northern Lights suplexes, both of them on the Lucha Brothers. Kenny Omega with a suicide dive over the top rope, landing on that bastard Pac and Penta and landing on his feet. So, here I have a note where I practically put it in a bracket. It lets me know not to read it out online. I'm going to bring up a episode of one of the most top ranked podcasts according to PWI. And in this particular episode that was recently recorded, for whatever reason, Jim Cornette seems to think that it's funny to pick on not only the Elite, not only Kenny Omega, but also the Usos, and say that they only know one move. And that one move that these men, that these tag teams only know, and they don't know any other moves, is the super kick. You know, Jim Cornette, I really don't know how he gets paid, because all he does is talk about the negative in professional wrestling. And on top of that, they know more than just a super kick. I'm sitting out here and I put all the fucking spots in order, and I've just named off maybe 10 of their spots, and not one of them was a super kick except for that one that was actually a super kick party, which is what they used to call themselves, Nick and Matt Jackson, whenever they used to do the super kicks in stereo. He's so fucking stupid, and he doesn't know what he's talking about, despite the fact that he's been in the business for 12, maybe 15, maybe 25 years. He started as a fucking announcer, and then before that he went into commentary, if I remember correctly. It's a shame that he's had the pleasure to work with people like Bobby Heenan. He's had the pleasure to work with people like Mr. Perfect. He's had the pleasure of working with people who I could only dream of working with. But yet he takes it for granted. For whatever fucking reason, he thinks that walking around with a fucking tennis racket is the coolest thing in the world, when in reality it makes you look like you're like a manager for one of the Serena sisters. But listen, I'm here to talk about professional wrestling. I'm not here to dwell on what some irrelevant son of a bitch who hasn't been relevant since 1994 thinks of professional wrestling. So if you think, just like Jim Cornette, that the only thing that the Elite knows how to do, and the Usos know how to do, is a super kick, then why don't you try watching their matches? If you watch this one right here, Full Gear 2022, it's the second match on the card. It went on a little bit too long, don't get me wrong, but it shows more than enough than not just the super kick. Anyway, back to the match. Nick Jackson with a Hurricane Rana. Look at that, a Hurricane Rana. It was something other than a super kick. On Penta, and Matt Jackson with a Tornado DDT. Would you listen at the commentary that I'm spewing? Okay, I'm going to stop now. Don't worry. My point's been made. And Matt Jackson with a Tornado DDT in the ring ends up on the outside of the ring. Triple Tombstone Power Drivers, followed up by a cutter. One of the Jackson brothers couldn't make out who it was, but Ray Phoenix ended up hitting a cutter on one of them, and it basically knocked them off their socks were laying in the next row. Let's put it that way. It knocked their socks in the next row. A triple tombstone power driver followed up by a cutter, one of the Jackson brothers. Ray Phoenix and a double suicide dive onto the Jackson brothers by the Lucha brothers. Pac hits a black arrow on, and Kenny Omega puts in the rings of Saturn. So at this point, I thought that the match was over. I honestly thought, okay, he's got him in the rings of Saturn. There's no way that he's not going to kick out of this. The other Jackson brothers were, just everything was all over the place, and all of everything, speechless. That's what I am. I'm speechless because the action was flying left and right, going up and down, and I couldn't believe it. There was actually a wrestling match for wrestling fans. And it was top of the line, Italiano, beautiful. But wouldn't you know it, Kenny Omega in the rings of Saturn after being hit with a fucking black arrow by Pac, that bastard. Kenny Omega got free. So Kenny Omega gets free from the rings of Saturn, and Pac throws Ray Phoenix a hammer, and he's telling him to use the hammer, because Ray Phoenix and Kenny Omega are the legal men in this match at this time, but he doesn't want to use it, and he just throws it away. He walks right into a Tiger Driver, and Kenny Omega only gets a 2 count off the Tiger Driver, with Pac passing the hammer to Ray Phoenix one more time. But Ray Phoenix reluctantly uses the hammer on Kenny Omega, rolls him up from a standing position, goes into a victory roll, and wins the contest. I feel as though that this match could have been a little bit shorter, but at times it felt like it was going on forever. Despite it all flows, despite all the near falls, rather, there was no interference, so that was good. No outside help from anybody. Nobody comes in and fuckles it up. And, referee went down, or low blow from out of nowhere. The only thing we seen was the hammer shot, but the referee did not see the hammer shot. This match was balls to the walls, 100 miles an hour, non-stop action. It's almost like they didn't miss a beat, and everybody's hearts were synced to the same tune. I guess it was the Carry On Wayward Son. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The TBS Championship match is next. The intro and the hype package don't exactly explain. They're kind of vague about what it is that they're fighting for. I'm just going to skim over this one because it honestly didn't take much time, if not any time at all, for Jade Cargill to beat Nyla Rose. And Jade is now 41-0. And she beat Ruby 41 and 0. She beats Ruby Soho to become the first TBS champion. Nyla tried stealing her title, stealing her finishing maneuver that I remember being called the Widow's Peak, but Jade Cargill calls it Jaded. I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. The next match on the card was a 4-way ROH World Championship match as champion Chris Jericho faces off against Claudio Castagnoli versus Bryan Danielson versus Sammy Guevara. Bryan Danielson is here to restore honor for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Claudio Castagnoli says no one's going to stop me from beating the living hell out of my opponents and beating them pillar to post. Sammy Guevara says Jericho put me in this match because he knows when the lights shine the brightest, he can count on me. And I'm going to make sure that championship stays in the Jericho Appreciation Society. And Chris Jericho says, in Ring of Honor, there is no honor, and I'm going to beat all of your heroes and legends who have held the Ring of Honor Championship. He says, and I'm going to tarnish this title's legacy. Everyone has different goals in this match, except for Sammy and Jericho. They seem to have the same goals. Keep the title in the JAS rather. Throughout the match, there have been multiple rallies, pinfall attempts, furthers, backs and forths, nice. So there's so many spots that it's really hard to keep up with or really call one spot and then say, okay, there's a spot, there's another one. Oh, look at that one. Because you had the cameraman going left and right, because I swear to God, it's like it's like you got a monkey working a camera. You know, like back and forth between, but the main stars of this match, honestly, is Claudio Castagnoli and Bryan Danielson. It's almost like a one-on-one match between Claudio Castagnoli and Bryan Danielson, featuring Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, because especially Guevara, because he only shows up like 4 times. But I mean, he still makes pretty good. He's got a few spots here. Back and forth between Claudio Castagnoli and Bryan Danielson. A nice striking rally. There's a nice back and forth pinfall rally wherever everybody thinks that they're going to get the 3, but instead the other person rolls that person up and they get a 1, a 2, and then they kick out. And then another person comes into the ring and gets yet another 1, and then a 2, and then they kick out. And then they shift their weight forward, and he's shifting his weight back, and there's a lot of false finishes almost. Jericho then tries to win off of a lion salt, but only gets a near fall. Sammy Guevara turned his back on Chris Jericho. Yet another beautiful rally between Claudio Castagnoli and Bryan Danielson. And these two go intense purposes, the stars of the show. Yeah, I already said that. It's almost like a match that's just featuring Sammy Guevara. Contest of pro wrestling match. So anyway, Jericho ends up picking up the victory. I can't say enough good things about this match, except for some of the spots that I put down here. And I forgot to put a space right here. It's going to make it extremely difficult for me to do my job if I don't have a space right here. Okay, never mind, that didn't work. I was hoping that by doing that it wouldn't pause my audio that I had going on here. It's fine. It's fine. I can work with it. It just made a ding noise. I should have just pulled up my phone and did it from there, but it's okay. And an avalanche Spanish fly on Bryan Danielson to get caught with a crossface in the center of the ring. Leaping Judas effect allows Jericho to retain the championship. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, we have Britt Baker versus okay, so she's making her wrestling return, Saraya. Now, whenever I was asking people about Paige, and I was asking non-wrestling fans, because honestly I don't have any friends that are actually wrestling fans, believe it or not, except for like friends online. But whenever I would ask friends, hey buddy, how do you feel about Paige coming back? Do you want to know what I heard? Paige in wrestling? And they'd look at me, and then that's, oh, she's the girl that did the porn, ain't she? And I'd be like, oh my God, you uncultured swine. You just can't say that to somebody, you know? It's not what she's most remembered for, you know? But that, to them, is really what she was most remembered for, and that's sad. Because she had a wonderful in-ring career, and for that matter, she had a great in-ring run as champion. Someone that she really had chemistry with was AJ Lee, for instance. I really enjoyed everything about the Paige character, including the opening promo that she did in NXT. And, you know, you can even go on YouTube and look up Paige funniest moments, and you're bound to find like this 10, 12, or 15-minute video of just nothing but her most lighting moments, you know? And to hear people talk about her now, non-wrestling fans, the girl who did the porn, oh my God, you know, like, do you guys understand where I'm getting at here? But when it was announced that Saraya Paige was going to make her in-ring return, I basically made the decision to look at Full Gear 2022 and not say, well, maybe we'll look at it next year, or maybe we'll look at it in a few years, because this is honestly something that I've wanted for a long time. But then you get on Twitter and you see people who are like, I didn't want Paige to return to AEW. I wanted Paige to return to WWE. And who's Saraya? How come she don't have her piercings no more? How come it looks like she's gained weight? And then I'm just sitting there. I want to be a keyboard warrior so bad right now. I want to tell them to just be happy with what they got. Please. So, here it is. Britt Baker versus Saraya. 1-on-1. Paige's first wrestling match in 5 years. So, in this match, she uses a certain move that commentary really doesn't, they don't know what to call it, but it's basically a package DDT. And she calls it, or at least she used to call it, the Rampage. Whenever I first, and she hits Britt Baker with it like 5 times, twice in a row to win the match. But I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. So 3.5 out of 5. Not that bad. Because Britt Baker was really, she just focused only on the neck. She wanted to test it, see if it was really healed up, see if it was really good to go. Because the story was that Britt Baker broke or that Paige Saraya broke her neck, and that's why she wasn't allowed in wrestling anymore. They were afraid she's more of a liability than anything else. Anyway, back to the story. Whenever I played WWE 2K, I used to play as Deadpool. And while playing as Deadpool, I had 2 signature moves and 2 finisher moves. One of the signature moves, before I hit the finisher to set up for the finisher, was the Rampage, that package DDT that she used. And I remember all the time, no matter how many times that I would join a lobby for WWE 2K, that there would be all these people who would be like, "Oh my god, it's Deadpool. It's Deadpool, guys." And they would always mock me because, of course, I didn't make my own creator wrestler. I just downloaded one, off of the community post board pages. I chose Deadpool because he's just fun to play around with, I guess you could say. And then everybody'd give me a hard time about it. "Oh my god, guys, it's Wade Wilson." It's so funny. But then they're like, "Let Deadpool hit his finisher." "What's his finisher?" And of course it was the Rampage. It's just the signature to set up for the finisher, which was the Ishigoshi. No, it wasn't the Ishigoshi Hiroshi. Kinshasa. That's what it was called. It was called Kinshasa. It's done by Shinsuke Nakamura. But anyway, get off that for a minute. Yeah, it says that commentary doesn't give it a name, but tell them what it was called. It was a signature because on WWE 2K Online plays Deadpool. And our next match on the card is Wardlow, the champion, versus Samoa Joe, who is also a champion, but his championship will not be defended. Wardlow versus Samoa Joe versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Samoa Joe is the best friend that got stabbed in the back, I'm sorry. His best friend stabbed him in the back, from what I could tell. Wardlow and Samoa Joe seem to have a pre-existing relationship of either it was a friendship gone sour or it was a camaraderie of some sort, a partnership of some kind that I really couldn't put my finger on what it was to begin with. And they really don't say it that much. But this is almost a match, Wardlow versus Samoa Joe, featuring Powerhouse Hobbs. Samoa Joe, after Hobbs was put down with the 3 power bombs by Wardlow and a spine buster, Joe comes in to pick up the pieces, and the new TNT champion, Samoa Joe. Honestly, this match didn't have that many spots in it to call, and I honestly want to give Samoa Joe his props because the promo work that he did was honestly really, really passionate, really, really good. Whenever you talk Samoa Joe, you talk passion. He'll look you in the eyes and tell you that he's going to put you to sleep. And that's exactly what he does. He makes it look good, at least. At least he makes it look good. No DQ, no count out, as Sting and Darby Allin versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Darby puts up a ladder, but one of the Singh brothers ended up catching him. Darby they catch him out of the air and do somewhat of a razor's edge or an outsider's edge. I'm not sure which one you guys are familiar with, whether it's the razor's edge or the outsider's edge. Darby Allin got that done to him on the ring ramp, caught him out of midair. Stinger splash off the barricade from the crowd onto. They keep saying his name, but I can't. I can't for the life of me hear them. It's like Sana Singh or something, but he's some big Indian guy. I'm assuming he's one of the Singh brothers, which is a dynasty of professional wrestling. If I've ever heard of them, because in WWE there were these two. They were known as the Singh brothers as well, but they used to hang around with another Indian guy. His name was Jinder Mahal. But Mahal, I don't really think that he has any bearing here, you know? Like, why would they call him the Singh? Why would the Singh brothers hang out with him in 2017, maybe? And then afterwards, these be the same guys, you know? It just doesn't make sense. Why would Jared need to tag in a no DQ match? So here's the thing that really got me was I noticed that there was, they say no DQ, no count out, right? No disqualification. Well, that implies that there is no rules. So with a no rules setting, and at the beginning of the match, there was clearly no tags being made because everyone was clafunkled and going wherever the fuck that they wanted to. If that was the case, then why in the hell, please, somebody tell me why in the hell, halfway through the match, that Jeff Jarrett has to tag out to Jay Lethal. Doesn't make sense. And then they start, halfway into the match, just forget about the no count out, no disqualification rule, because now it's a regular tag team match. What was it, a no disqualification for the first 5 minutes? Lots of high-flying action, lots of fast-paced action, lots of coffin drops. Damn, what an exciting contest. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. AEW Women's Champion. AEW Women's World Championship on the line as champion Toni Storm faces off against challenger Jamie Hayter. Best friends turned rivals. 7 years, Jamie has been waiting for her opportunity. So some of the spots in this match are 2 snap suplexes into a pin, a missed ripcord clothesline, which she keeps missing it. I don't know why you would keep going for the missed ripcord clothesline if you kept missing it. And every time that she would miss it, Toni Storm would always end up getting her in the half and half German suplex or the fast release German suplex, and suplexing her to the other side of the ring. I do apologize for that elongated silence. Someone just came through the door there. If you don't know, I practically live in a living room. So they came in making a whole bunch of moaning noises and unnecessary other noises. I do apologize once again. This makes 3 weeks in a row where I've been interrupted, and this is episode 57. I ask for 5 stars, and yet I give you guys less than 5 stars. But anyway, Tony Storm always ends up getting Jamie Hayter in a suplex like state and suplexing her outside of the ring or to the other side of the ring. And some of the spots that I have down here is a chop on Jamie from the outside, allowing her to over and over close near fall headbutt by Storm makes Jamie Hayter and Tony Storm both fall to the ground. Smacked with the title. Okay, so Rebel comes in. She's interfering. She smacks Tony Storm with the championship. Whenever she does, she practically levels Tony Storm, and by Rebel's interference, she takes a standing. So Tony Storm takes a standing clothesline, still kicks out at 2. Britt Baker comes in. She interferes. She curb stomps Tony Storm on the outside while the referee's not looking, of course, because the referee, he could have been looking at any point in time. Jamie Hayter hits Storm with her own finishing maneuver called Storm Zero. The patented power driver, but Storm still kicks out at 2. Jamie Hayter beats Storm with the help of Britt Baker. The entire arena erupts in excitement. It took a lot to happen, but it happened, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Yes, literally someone came in here and then they were making like noises like that, and I just don't even know what to say anymore, man. I just don't know what to say anymore, man. I try to give you good quality content, but I can't even do that. I thought that they were upstairs. I literally thought that they were upstairs. AEW World Tag Team Championship match, and this one went on for a while, so I just wrote down the important parts. As the Acclaimed, Platinum Max Caster and Anthony Bowens versus Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Max Caster with a beautiful rapping performance. He calls Swerve Randall from Monsters, Inc., and he said he loved Keith Lee's performance in The Blind Side. Okay, that's racist, because the guy from The Blind Side, he's a big black guy. Keith Lee is a big black guy. So, if you're not a movie buff, or for that matter, if you're not a wrestling buff and you've only seen the movie, maybe you understand the joke halfway. But it's not that funny. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's not that funny. Billy Gunn runs in to save Bowens, and in doing so, the referee is distracted, because of course he is, and Swerve with a pair of what looks to be bolt cutters or pliers in his hand, trying to eliminate the fingers of Max Caster, trying to eliminate the fingers of Anthony Bowens, rather, and gives the pliers to Keith Lee, and he tries to tell Keith Lee to use them, much like earlier in the night whenever Pac gave the hammer to Ray Phoenix and told him to use it, but Phoenix said he didn't want to use it, but he ended up using the hammer anyway with the victory roll. Got the 1, got the 2, got the 3, but in this case, Swerve Strickland tries to give the pliers, rather, to, he tries to give them to his tag team partner Keith Lee and tells him to use them on their opponents, or at least one of their opponents, because he's tired of them scissoring, which is something that they do whenever they take they make a V, right, with their, and then they do the scissor thing, scissor me daddy ass, literally what he says. And when he says it, it's caught on, just let me tell you. But Keith Lee walks away and he says, I can't do that. So he leaves his tag team partner, rather, high and dry, and he decides to take the high road, so to speak. And it says talk about Keith Lee and Samoa Joe because they are both anomalies. I've never seen a man like Keith Lee. I've never seen someone who's that man's size, or for that matter, Samoa Joe's size, who can move at such a beautiful, beautiful pace. There is a reason, people, that Samoa Joe was on the X Division. And that reason is very, very simple. That reason is because Samoa Joe, he can move like someone who's 150 pounds, despite the fact that he is, if I remember correctly, what they said during his TNT championship match was 310 pounds. Do you know why a bumblebee is an anomaly? This is going to help me prove my point. A bumblebee is an anomaly because it's thought that it's scientifically impossible for the bumblebee with its fat body to pick up and its small little wingspan to pick itself up and fly and actually control its flight when it comes to it actually flying in a controlled flying area, Now we come to our main event, ladies and gentlemen. This is what it's all come to. This is what you've been waiting for. This is why your pupils are dilated. This is why your mouth is so dry. And this is why your hair is falling out. The AEW All Elite Wrestling World Championship match as champion Jon Moxley faces off against MJF, Michael Jacob Friedman. Now, I want to talk to you guys about something called relatability. What does it mean to relate to someone? You see, about 2 weeks ago, Michael Jacob Friedman found himself in a horrible, horrible position where live and in living color and on air, he basically spilled his guts to the AEW audience, and he let them know what happened behind the curtain 19 years ago. I'm sorry. 19. When he was 19. When he was 19 years old. What happened? There was a man by the name of William Regal who shattered his dreams of being in the WWE, who looked at him and told him, "I'm sorry, kid, but you're too young." A man who didn't take in to... He didn't really think, hey, maybe this kid's got potential. Maybe he can go places. Maybe he's a main event talent, undiscovered. When William Regal looked at MJF, he didn't see anything. MJF later said that now, that email that he's got of William Regal telling him that he's too young, now he looks at that and he laughs. Back to what I was saying though. Relatability. What is that? Well, you see, MJF has been bullied throughout his life. And if you've never been bullied in your life, consider yourself lucky. I know, for one, that I've been bullied throughout my life. And maybe, just maybe, it's still happening today. Some decisions that I make are not my own. Some decisions that I would make, I would rather not make. And for that matter, not have to make. You see, MJF had been bullied throughout his life so much. He told a story once upon a time about him joining the football team. And he thought, finally, I'm going to have friends. Finally, I'm going to be accepted. But you know what happened? He said they took rolls of quarters and they beat him mercilessly with them. With those rolls of quarters. He said he went home. He cried. He talked about that to his family. He knew that he could never show his face again at the school. And for that matter, he doesn't want to be on the football team anymore. He thought he was going to be accepted, but the reason that they picked on him is because he is a Jew. The only thing that they would call him is a 5'0" little Jew boy. I can relate to MJF in one way or another. Not because I'm Jewish. Far from it. I don't really understand the Jewish faith, but that's not the point. The point? Well, whenever you're told that you can't do something in your life, you tend to grow a backbone, and you tend to want to do that thing that your peers, friends, loved ones, I'm going to put that in air quotes, loved ones told you that you can't do. So, ladies and gentlemen, the AEW World Championship match was set. MJF, which the people were cheering for. I couldn't figure out why. There's no way that this man was actually a face. Versus Jon Moxley, who they were. They would show no... They gave no reaction to Jon Moxley except singing his theme song, Wild Thing. You make my heart sing. There was a tombstone pile driver on John Moxley on the ring apron, which apparently is I don't know how many times I've heard this, the hardest part of the ring. You would figure that the hardest part of the ring would be those damn turnbuckles. Tombstone power driver on John Moxley, table spot where Moxley power drives MJF through the table. MJF kicks out of a paradigm shift, which practically no one's kicked out of. I mean, there's been like maybe a handful of people that have kicked out of it, but they only kick out one time. I'm going to let you guys know that. They only kick out of the paradigm shift one time. That's it. The second time, you're out. Just wrestling's unwritten rule. If you get hit with a paradigm shift, you're gone, buddy. Max power driver through a table. MJF kicks out of a paradigm shift, goes into a figure four leg lock, a slingshot power bomb, slingshot power driver. Oh, okay, yeah, got a 2 count. Max then gets into okay, so basically he hits a chop block on MJF while he wasn't looking, and for whatever reason, the crowd starts chanting, "Fuck you, Moxley." Then starts working on the knee of MJF for a avalanche. He hits an avalanche paradigm shift from the top rope. Like I said, you're going to get up from one paradigm shift. You're lucky if he hits you with the second one, you're not getting up from it. But this time, MJF gets the rope break. He doesn't kick out. That's how protected that move is. He doesn't kick out. He gets the rope break. The brass knuckles get passed by William Regal to MJF to take the knockout blow from John Moxley. MJF is your new AEW World Champion. And I didn't write down the rating that I gave this match. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Whenever you think up a rating and then you don't write it down. In all reality, though, I think this match should be 3 out of 5. A solid 3 out of 5 stars. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to apologize for that brief 2-minute, 3.5-minute interruption at around the 47-minute mark. Thank you all so much for joining me. My name is Mocha. You should probably give me 5 stars on the App Store. Just a small suggestion. This has been episode 57, if I remember correctly. Good night. And that's a wrap.